This is the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon, and this is potentially the most important 3D printer of the last few years. Not only is it one of the fastest off-the-shelf 3D printers that you can buy today, but it is also offering 3D printing in a turnkey solution and offers features and capabilities that we've not seen before. This 3D printer has really moved the needle in the market, and it's not surprising when you look at the people who are behind this. For those who don't know, some of the engineers at Bambu Lab are also some of the engineers who used to be at DJI, and they are used to delivering products that are simple and easy to use, and you can really see that DNA in this printer. Today, I'm going to give you an overview of some of its features and capabilities, get it printing, do some testing, and then at the very end, I'm going to share with you my thoughts. Just to be clear before we do that though, Bambu Lab did send me this printer for free. However, they have not seen this video before it's been published, and as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. Anyway, let's get on with it and let's take a closer look at what the X1 Carbon is all about. The X1 Carbon from Bambu Lab is one of the fastest off-the-shelf 3D printers you can buy today. Not only is it fast, it's also capable of printing up to 16 colours with its external AMS modules. It features a 256x256x256 build volume, and the heat bed has a removable sprung plate. It's fitted with a custom bamboo extruder, which has a 0.4mm hot end capable of reaching up to 300 degrees C. One of the unique features of the X1 Carbon is its built-in LiDAR sensor. Not only does this help calibrate the extruder before the print starts, it also uses this to inspect the first layer of the print alongside the Bambu Lab AI software to try and warn the user of any potential issues that could cause the print to fail. The X1 Carbon is one of the fastest printers you can buy off the shelf today. Being a Core XY design means it can move its hot end up to 500mm a second and is capable of accelerating at over 20,000mm a second. To allow the printer to move so fast, that hot end is mounted on two carbon fibre rods which run side to side, with steel rods running front to back. Alongside the main cooling fan on the extruder, there's an auxiliary cooling fan mounted in the left-hand side of the casing that blows over the bed in print. Alongside the auxiliary fan, there's also a cabinet fan as well, which will filter the air and expel it out the back to regulate the internal temperature. One of the real nice features about the X1 is the built-in touch controller. This is based on the ARM dual-core Cortex M4 CPU running at 1.2 GHz. It has a 5-inch 1280x720 touchscreen. It has 4 gigs of eMMC memory, an SD card reader, as well as Wi-Fi connectivity. This allows you to not only view and control the printer, see its status, and control the additional accessories such as the AMS, but it also allows you to connect online, upload prints directly either via the SD card, but also remotely via the Bambu Lab software as well. Another nice feature of the X1 Carbon is the built-in camera and light bar. This allows you to not only view your prints live, but also see their progress in a time-lapse recording via the SD card. One of the most interesting features of the Bambu Labs printers is their AMS module. Each of these can take up to 4 different filaments, allowing you to either print 4 different colors or have 4 different types of filament on board. They'll work with PLA, ABS, and most filaments except TPU, but that doesn't mean you can't print TPU on the printer. You would just have to manually feed it into the extruder externally. As I mentioned, you can print up to 16 colours in total, and that is because you can connect a total of 4 AMSs to each printer. The AMS also makes a great storage box for your filament. It is airtight and it has a rubber seal around the hinge, but also has somewhere for you to put silica gel, helping absorb moisture from the filament. Looking around the printer externally, you'll notice that it is fully enclosed, which means you'll have no problems with filament like ABS. It has a glass front door as well as a glass top panel. It has aluminium side panels, and the overall build quality of this printer is outstanding. On the rear, you'll find the filament runout sensor as well as the tubing for the AMS module, the fan output, as well as the poop chute. Now you're probably wondering what the poop chute is, but this is the area that the filament is expelled from in the switchover. What I mean by this is, as a result of the filament changing on the AMS, there has to be some purging done, and this is where the purging filament is expelled. When you get your printer, it'll come in this box, and when you get it out, you'll find that it is pretty much 90% assembled. All you need to do is fit the LCD screen, remove the AMS that comes inside, remove all the packaging, and then release the heat bed. They do include a screwdriver because this is held down with a couple of screws to ensure that there's no damage in transit. Overall, the process is fairly straightforward and it took me about half an hour, but I did keep stopping to take footage as I was doing it. Once the build's done, it's then time to get the printer set up. Now, the screen makes this very straightforward. You simply choose your language, then choose your Wi-Fi network, allow the printer to update its firmware, then perform any calibrations. You also have the ability at this point to connect it to the Bambu Lab app as well, allowing you remote control of the printer too. Now, I'm not going to be able to cover every single feature this printer has in this video. However, there is one more thing I want to touch on, and that is with regards to filament. This printer will work with any filament on the market, and as I mentioned, you can attach up to 4 AMSs, allowing for up to 16 different filaments or colours. You can print flexibles, including TPU, but you cannot do them in the AMS. There is, though, one very nice feature that the AMS does have, and that is built-in NFC. If you use genuine Bambu Lab filaments, there is a tag in each filament that tells the printer what the information for that specific filament is, i.e. it'll tell it what colour it is, the filament type, and the printer then will automatically load up the best settings for using that filament. This really is a very nice feature that they've integrated into the printer. As I've said, it doesn't restrict you to using Bambu Lab filaments, but it does give you some advantages if you do, and it just makes for a very simple plug and play setup. Also, if you compare the prices of the Bambu Lab filaments to others on the market, they really are quite competitive, and there really isn't that many advantages to using other filaments on the market. And for me, I'll probably be sticking to the Bambu Lab filaments moving forward, but I'm not restricted in that either. In the setup process, I showed you there's a point where you have the ability to pair the printer to an app. Now, Bambu have a dedicated smartphone app for their printers that allows you to not only monitor the printer, but control it as well. This is all done through the Bambu Lab cloud service, because the way this printer works as standard is the slicer or the app communicates with the printer via the Bambu cloud servers. You do have the option to do it locally rather than the cloud service, but the benefit to that is that you don't actually have to be on the same network to view the printer, but control it as well. In the app, you have the ability to view the status of the printer, but also control it as well. For instance, we have the printer status, we have the AMS options down here as well, and we even then have the ability to view the live footage from the onboard camera, making sure that the print is doing exactly what we expect it to. You can also do things like change the temperatures in the app, control the fans and the speed, and you have pretty much all of the same basic functionality in the app as you have on the main screen for controlling when a print is in progress. You can even go back and play previous time-lapse footage that you've taken on the printer if you've got an SD card installed as well. Now, the app really is just a nice addition to this printer. It not only gives you the control options, but it will give you notifications and warnings as well. So it will tell you if there's been a problem with the print when it does the inspection, or when the print is actually finished. Now, this printer is quite loud when it's in use. This is mostly because of the noise you have from the AMS changing filament, but you do have all of those onboard fans as well. There is, though, a silent mode available in the menu that will quieten down the overall print process if you are using it somewhere where the noise is a problem. There are lots of other little features on this printer that I haven't touched on in this video as well, including the ability to dry your filament on the heat bed. As I mentioned earlier, you can store it in the AMS, and it does have the ability to absorb moisture with the silica gel, but you can then dry the filament on the printer too, which is again just a nice little addition. Now, as I said, there is so much that I haven't touched on in this video, but I'm not going to spend any more time on the specs. I want to now talk about my experience having used this printer for the last month. Now, I will say up front, I think this is the best 3D printer I have ever used. It is the fastest, easiest to use, and pretty much out the box solution that there has been. I am someone that has always said my Prusa has been the best printer I've had, but this beats this by a country mile. What we have here is a Core XY printer, which is the fastest printer I have seen, used, period. But it's not just fast, it is able to deliver fantastic results at those speeds as well. It has multiple speed options, and even in the standard speeds, it is dramatically faster than other printers and will take take a look at that a little bit more in a minute with regards to the slicing times. But overall, what you're getting here with the X1 Carbon is a printer that will give you great results as fast as possible. Now, the Bambu series of printers do come with their own slicer. When you look at this, it may look a little bit familiar, and that is because it is actually based off Prusa Slicer, although whilst it does look similar, there are quite a lot of changes to take advantage of the new hardware this printer has to offer. Overall, it has all of the main functionality we've come to expect to find in Prusa Slicer, but has all of the additional options, such as our ability here to look at the types of filament, as well as the options for the device itself, which allows us to look at the AMS settings, show us what filaments are in there, allow us to change those filaments, relabel them, or automatically load them if we're using genuine Bambu filament. You can also fully control the printer from in here as well, and even view the time-lapse footage or the live view of the printer in action as it's doing a print. Now, with that multicolor capability, you can also color your prints in the slicer as well. This is done by simply choosing the print itself, picking the color option at the top, and then selecting which parts of the print you want to change. The slicer has some really nice features around this, allowing you to pick large areas, small areas, manually color, or let the software do it itself. Next, we're going to take a look at this printer in action. What we're going to do is walk you through some of its capabilities, both on fast prints and normal prints as well. And then we'll take a look at some things that I've printed over the last few weeks to give you an idea of how they've come out as well. The first thing we're going to do is print one of the pre-sliced files that is available on the Bambu software. We're going to do the Benchy, and this is the one that's been optimized for use with this printer. There are several different files available, including a scraper, which I strongly suggest that you do print as well. It's very handy for removing the filament off the bed. So let's get on with it. Now, to demo this, I'm going to show you some footage of the print in progress. I'm not going to do this in real time because it will take too long. I will speed it up, but I am going to show you various parts of the print and explain what has been going on. Now, the first thing that happens with this printer is it does the calibrations. At the start, it has to calibrate the flow, it has to calibrate the bed. This can actually take quite a long time, anywhere between sort of 7 and 9 minutes, and that is what you're seeing taking place here. Once that completes, the main print starts. It will put down the first layer, inspect it, and then carry on as you would expect. Now, this process does take a bit of time, but you don't actually need to do it every single print. You do need to do it the first time you power the printer up and you're printing with new filament, but if you're printing back-to-back prints that are on the same filament, you would only need to actually do this on the first print, and then you would be able to tell the printer not to bother because all of the calibrations are stored on board after the first one. The only time you would need to recalibrate would be if you did power the printer down or you changed the filament. Now, just looking at the times on this one, it completes in a total of 27 minutes and 8 seconds. There was 9 minutes and 10 seconds for the calibration, giving the total print time for the Benchy of about 17 minutes 58. This is really close to the time that was being shown in the Bambu Slicer, and it just proves that it is very accurate in the numbers that it is giving you. Just jumping back to the original footage, this shows you the kind of speeds that you do get from this printer, and this isn't even the maximum. We'll take a look at that a little bit more later on. Next, I want to print another Benchy, but this time we're going to slice it ourselves in the Bambu Slicer. Rather than have any special settings, we're going to keep everything standard, 0.2mm layer height, 15% infill, and simply standard speed settings. I'm then going to show you the footage from both that first print with the pre-sliced file and this print side by side, just to give you an idea of the time difference between the two. To demo this, I'm going to skip the actual calibration time, and I'm going to start the process on both sides at the point of it laying down the purge line, which is just before the main print starts. Now, just looking at the time difference between the two, on the pre-sliced file, it came in at 18 minutes and 3 seconds, and on the file that I sliced, we got it at 33 minutes and 6 seconds. That is obviously without the pre-calibration, so you can add between 7 and 9 minutes on that for a total print time. In the Bambu Slicer, it was giving a time of 32 minutes and 42 seconds, so that 3306 is very, very close to what was being predicted. What's really interesting is if you look at this compared to slicing the same file with the same settings on Prusa Slicer for my Mark III's. Here you can see that it's showing a total print time of over 1 hour and 30 minutes. That is over an hour longer to print the same item, even when using the standard settings as I was. Okay, now just looking at those prints that you've seen, we have here number 1 is the Benchy that's pre-sliced, number 2 is the Benchy that I sliced, and then we have that calibration cube where we messed around with the speeds. Now looking at the first Benchy first, this has come out very, very well. Now you will see that there's a line around the hull here, and you can see a colour difference in the filament between the bottom and the top. This is where the speed changes as part of the print due to the deck area inside the boat. This is absolutely normal. You will see this on many fast prints. If you wanted to get rid of that visibility, you'd want to slow the print right down to allow the filament to cool evenly. You can see then what you have is a shinier section down the bottom and a duller section at the top. Overall though, if we look at the quality of the print, there's no stringing, and I have to say I think it is very, very good. You can't quite read the writing on the back, but I'm not worried about that. And if we look at the first layer as well, there are a few gaps here and there, but considering how fast this printed, it has come out outstanding. Bringing in the Benchy that I sliced in Prusa Slicer, the one that was a bit slower, it does actually look a little bit worse in my opinion. You still have that line along there, but it isn't quite as straight as it was on this one. It has moved a little bit as it has been a slower print. There is though some little layer lines I can see down here, very, very fine, but it is interesting that the pre-sliced file has come out so well compared to the file that I sliced. Overall though, there really is no issues here. Again, no stringing, all the steps look good, there's no shifting of the layers, everything just looks nice and tidy, and considering again how fast both of these are printed, there really is very little to complain about. If we just take a look underneath, I will say that the first layer does look better on the print that I sliced, but it is minimal overall. Yes, there are a few gaps here, but when you're talking about printing at these speeds, it is often the case that there is a little bit of a compromise to be had here and there, and you could easily get away from that if you were just to slow down that first layer. Out the box, this printer is extremely fast, but there are additional modes available on the printer that go as fast as ludicrous mode that allow you to push your prints out even quicker whilst retaining as much quality as possible. Obviously, there is always a payoff with speed. You are not going to get the absolute same quality at maximum speed as you are at minimum speed, but what I will say is the results that you will get from this, even in ludicrous, are very, very good, and it gives you some capabilities to get things off the print bed faster. Just to quickly demonstrate these different speed settings, we're going to print a test cube, and then I'm going to move through the different speed settings as the print progresses. Now, this is just to demonstrate the differences that I chose in speeds. There really isn't anything to show you here. I can see where the speeds actually changed. If you look, there's actually a line along here at the point I changed it, and then there's another line up here where I changed it as well. Very hard to see, but it does just demonstrate that if you do change the print speed mid-print, you are going to have a slight effect on the overall print quality. But what's really interesting on this is if we look at the top layer, that was done with that 160% speed or ludicrous mode, and it does look very good. There's no gaps, it's filled in nicely around the Z, and again, there really is nothing to complain about. Next, I just want to show you a bit of a time-lapse montage of the prints I've been doing on the printer since receiving it, and then we'll take a look at the results on the bench. Okay, so here is just a selection of the prints I've done on the Bambu X1 since receiving it. Now we'll start with the benchies because these are different benchies to the ones you've seen earlier, and there's some quite interesting things here. So what we've got is our traditional benchy. So this one here is printed in PET G. You can see the print has come out very well. I slowed this one down a lot more than I did the other prints, and you can see the quality is absolutely fantastic. We then have this one here, which is quite interesting because this is in TPU. There is a little bit of stringing, but this was an older spool of TPU that I had around, but the overall print quality is absolutely fantastic. You can see there's not really any zits, any problems. Just to prove it is made of TPU, I'm going to squeeze it there, and overall I have to say I think the results on this are phenomenal. We then have a couple of other interesting ones. We have another TPU one, which I printed there just to test it a second time, and then we have this one. This is printed in PAHTCF. Now this is that carbon fiber filament. If I just tap it, you can see and hear that it is a completely different sound to what you'll get from any of the other filaments. If I just give you a look around it, it has come out absolutely fantastic. If we look at the bottom layer, it looks good. The back, you can't read the writing, but that will be down to the filament. But this is one of those absolutely solid engineering filaments, and the quality of this is just, again, simply outstanding. This print absolutely blew me away. I'm really impressed with just how this one has come out. Moving over to a couple of other TPU parts I printed as seen in the time-lapse. This is a GoPro mount for one of the quads. Again, you can see a little bit of stringing. I'm still working on that. I've got a new profile and a new spool of TPU, and we'll be testing that in the future. Now, as I mentioned, I've been continuing to work on the TPU profile. I'm using SainSmart TPU 95, and this has always needed a bit of tuning on whatever printer I've used it on. Now, you can see here that original spool on that older filament, and then here we've got the brand new spool. I was still getting a little bit of stringing, but after a bit more tweaking of the profile, I've now pretty much got it perfect, and I will put a link to that profile on a video in the near future. Overall though, from a TPU point of view, the printer is more than capable. You just may need to tweak the profiles a little bit simply as a result of the different performance from different manufacturers. Now, moving over to some of the figurines that I've printed. Now, there are several of these. First of all, you may have seen Bender earlier in the video in various places. I'll go and get Bender before we finish this one up. He's currently doing some maintenance on the AMS, but I've also done some Baby Yodas. This little person down here, which is this little unicorn, I printed this for my daughter. Again, you can see the quality on this is absolutely fantastic. No issues whatsoever. Little bit of an issue there on the bottom layer, I will add, but other than that, the print is just perfect. We've then got Yodas. I printed a straight one, and then I printed a multicolor. Now, just to be clear on the multicolor, this filament is Bambu filament, but the green and the black is third-party filament. Overall, I have to say Yoda has come out again just phenomenal. I did use variable layer height on this one just to show you the top of his head, so you can see that there. There is a few zits here and there on this one, especially on the third-party filaments, mostly on his eyes actually, but again, you're going to get stuff like that when you are doing the retracts on those very small inserts, but that just shows you the kind of multicolor print that you can get. And then we did Yoda in a full single color as well. Next, I want to show you the teddy bear. Now, this is a super tough print for the printer because I printed this without supports. It was printed straight. It was printed below 0.2 mil. I can't quite remember the settings for this now. It was done, I think, at 0.16. Could be wrong. It was though done to try and get a very nice quality print. What you can see is it has come out very nice overall. There are some areas where it did struggle because of the fact I printed it without supports. So again, under here you can see, and under the arm there, because if you look, that is really virtually a horizontal out compared to that side there. And then you can see on the bottom layer there, it had a little bit of difficulty here and there on the areas it was off the bed, but considering we printed this without supports, again, I think it's come out really, really well. Finally, I want to show you Bender. Now, he does spend most of his time in my AMS, just making sure everything is working as it should be, although he's pretty useless because he spends most of the time drunk. I have to say though, overall he has come out very nicely. Again, none of the filament you're seeing here is Bambu Labs filament. This was all third-party filament. It's a mix actually of Prusament and a couple of other filaments that I had laying around. As you can see, the quality is really nice. There are, again, some little areas where you can see some bits that could be better, but it is difficult when we're talking about a multicolour print, especially with very, very small pieces. But overall, I have to say, I think it has done a fantastic job. And again, it's really nice to be able to print things like this, like Yoda. Having that ability to do multicolor prints is just completely new to me compared to any of the other printers that I've used. Okay, so to share with you my thoughts, having spent time with the X1 over the last few weeks, honestly, I think this printer is phenomenal. It is the simplest plug and play way of getting into 3D printing that I've seen. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's perfect because there are the odd issue. The biggest for me being it isn't the quietest printer in the world. However, it really does do what I have seen no other 3D printer do before, which is deliver a turnkey out-the-box solution. Now, I know there are other companies trying to take that crown from Bambu Lab. However, they're going to have a real job, in my opinion, doing that, considering just how well Bambu Lab have delivered here. Now, price-wise, the X1 Carbon with the AMS that you see here comes in at about £1,450 or $1,450. You can get just the X1 on its own. That's about $1,200. And you can also get a version called the P1P, which is a cutback version of this printer. It doesn't have side panels. It doesn't have the AMS or some of the additional features like the LiDAR, and that's available for under $700. Bambu Lab really have created a range of printers here that has been disruptive to the market, and it's going to come down to what features and capabilities you want. If you're after the very best possible 3D printing experience, the X1 Carbon with the AMS is going to do that. But if you don't need the multi-filament support, side panels, because you're not printing filaments such as ABS, then you may find the P1P is going to do what you want to do. I strongly suggest taking a look at some of what these printers have to offer, and genuinely I think this is the best 3D printer I have ever owned, and Bambu Labs have really pushed the industry forward with what they've done here. So, in the end, genuinely, I think this thing is fantastic. Bambu, I want to say a massive thank you for sending it over for us to take a look at. You're not having it back. You'd have to prize it from my dead hands before you're going to get it back into its box. I also want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel. I'm really interested in knowing what you think about this printer as well. If you have any questions, please do put them in the comment section and I will try and answer them. Furthermore, if you'd like to support us, there will be a link to this printer in the description, but there's also a link to my Patreon as well. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my patrons for supporting the channel, and whilst we didn't buy this printer, if you'd like to support us to buy many of the products that we do buy on this channel, please do consider checking it out. Anyway, that's it from me on this one. Stay safe. I'll speak to you soon.